Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Harbor Advisory Board for the City of Morro Bay. Today is Thursday, June 5th, 2014 at 6 p.m. Please let the record show that we do have quorum. All members are here with the exception of Dana McClish, who I understand his son has graduated from high school tonight, so he has a good reason for not being here. So congratulations to Dana's son. We will begin with a moment of silence, please. Thank you. And we'll now move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Justice for all.
Thank you. And we'll now move on to our advisory board member announcements and or presentations. I'll start down at the end with Gene.
Well, spring is here, summer's here, and I'm seeing a lot more life in the bay, so that's good.
Thank you, Gene.
I'm glad to see the red cans are back out on the south side of the channel. Very helpful.
You know where you're going again, huh? Lynn?
Having had to haul my boat out in Santa Barbara, I missed the last meeting, and I'll sure be glad when we have one here. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. I have a couple of things. First off, congratulations to the Harbor Department for your open house and christening of the boat last month. That was a wonderful event. I was happy to be a part of that. I think everybody really had a good time that afternoon. So it was a nice event where we could all come together there. The second item is we have, if you haven't heard already, a community radio station in town, live on the air. We've got a great FM signal. It's 97.3. So if you haven't gone to 97.3 on your FM dial yet, do that. It's your neighbors, your friends, playing music and doing talk shows, really some great stuff. And the last thing that I'd like to mention is I would like to congratulate those that won this last election, and not just those that won, but actually all 5 candidates. I thought the election was run very well. I thought it was a clean, respectful campaigning event that went on behalf of each of the 5 people that ran. So I thank them each for running respectful campaigns, and congratulations to the winners, and thank you for your service to those who didn't win. Those are my announcements, and I'll move down to Bill. Ron. All right. Thank you. We will now move on to public comment period. And the way that we work our public comment period is this is a time for you to come up to the podium and discuss anything that is not on the agenda. If it's on the agenda tonight, we request that you wait until that time for your public comment so that we can discuss it in context then. If you don't want to stick around for that agenda item, you're welcome to come up now. So we will open public comment period at this time. Please come forward, state your name and city of residence.
City of residence, Morro Bay. Hi, I'm Michael Rowland. They call me Bear. I'm a live board here in Morro Bay. And apparently that I have a little bit of a controversial attitude with the Harbor Department. I'm trying to stop that. They issued me a live board permit. There's been things I didn't get in the mail. I really didn't want to pay the monies they had billed me with because I didn't think I owed them the penalties. I mean, I owed them $225, which I'm glad to pay. But I just need the controversy and everything to stop, and I'd like to have a meeting with them within the next 2 weeks anyway, just to straighten this out. And Eric's not here, but I mean, it's been going on for more than 3 years, and I just want to stop it, because I don't have any problem with anybody here. I know most everybody here. I'm pretty sure. I've dealt with Gene quite a bit. I pay my bills, and they're saying I don't. So I just want to make sure that we make agreement and get this thing taken care of. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments. Michael.
Hello, my name is Dave Akey. I'm a resident of Los Osos. I have a proprietary interest in the mooring in the bay. I've been here for 14 years. And I have known Bear for 9 years, and he's worked for me off and on during that 9 years. I've come to know him as a friend. I found him to be honest and straightforward, although he's very much an individual. I went with him to see Eric at the Harbor Department to inquire about his living board permit approximately 15 months ago. Eric had told him that it would be mailed, and that would be the second time that he had been told that. And Mr. Rowland has talked to me many times about what he feels as problems that he's had in communicating with the Harbor Department. Regarding this, he received a number of citations. He went to court over this, and the judge basically told the then city attorney that the city attorney probably had better things to do than to hassle Mr. Rowland. And today, we did learn that he had received the permit. Actually, it had been executed by the Harbor Department, even though he hadn't ever received a copy of it until 2 months ago. It was mailed to him with another bill. Anyway, I do know that he wishes to resolve this, and I hope that the Harbor Department and he can do this. Otherwise, I guess he will be looking to come back here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Good evening. My name is Jack Hansen, 33-year resident of Morro Bay. I'm here to appeal for my slip.
So, Jack, pardon me for interrupting. You are on the agenda under new business?
I am?
Yes. So we'll be addressing that as a specific agenda item in a little bit.
Okay. I'll wait. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Anyone else for public comment?
Yeah, my name's John Gillespie, and I live in Santa Margarita, and I have a commercial vessel here in Morro Bay, and I've been here a number of years. And we had to move off the T pier, and we got into a slip down south, and I come to realize that all these years I've been here, I could have been applying for a slip that would save me a bit of money and might be advantageous in the sense that the T pier is a harder place for me to be tying up in the off season. And but I find there's only 3 slips in the bay that would fit the size vessel that I have, and I guess I'm kind of just throwing this together because it struck me that this is something that I'd like to see happen, and I don't want to step on anyone's toes. I don't want to try to get ahead of anybody on anything. I just think that for me to sign up for a slip waiting list, I got to put up $450, and I just don't. At this time of year, I don't have that extra to just put up for the first month's slip, and I don't know when I'm going to get it. I don't know if there can be some kind of dispensation change of that deposit on the waiting list for commercial slips. Another factor I see involved is I've been in this port a long time, a lot of years. I didn't even think to stop and count how many it's been, but I built the boat and launched it here. And I kind of like this slip I'm in. And and if it wasn't in anybody else's way who might be signed up for that large of a slip, I thought that maybe the fact I've been here a long time could use the savings, as I've been really subjected to the vagaries of fisheries management on a federal level, that it might be something that it would help me quite a bit, and I would appreciate it if there could be something done about it. I'm not exactly sure what. You guys, handle this stuff more than anything, and you do a darn good job of most everything I've ever seen here. So maybe they could come up with some kind of idea on that. Maybe something, the fact the guy's been here a number of years and has been paying and doing the teep here, and all through the years of all the shuffle and all that. A lot of it was just a lot of hard work that didn't need to happen, and they changed that. That was good. But I almost feel like the boat I have, it wouldn't be bad to have it somewhere where it wasn't such an eye The tourists, a big complaint I have about the T Pier, and I end up throwing ropes and buckets and pallets up alongside the rail, and the Harbor Patrol comes by and says, "Oh, come on, John, you can't have this stuff here." And I tell them, "Well, it's for a reason. If I can keep people back just an extra 3-4 feet, they don't ask me a lot of questions about, they can't, because I can act like I don't hear them. They're just far enough away, and their little kids don't come up and get on the edge of the rail looking over. And the whole time I'm trying to work, I'm thinking that little kid's going to trip on that rail and be on my deck, break a neck, drown, or whatever. And if I don't say something to them, I'm going to feel terrible if it happened. And when I say something to somebody, they get on me for yelling at their kids. And I don't yell. I'm just saying, little kid, you got to stand back, please. And it's just a thought, because I'd hate to think of somewhere down the line something happening. And this just seems like something that could maybe work out, is what I'm saying. And I just wanted to present that since there's no other opportunity to do it.
What's the name of your vessel, John?
The Windwalker.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments.
Yeah.
Anyone else for public comment? Seeing none, public comment is now closed. We'll move on to item A1, the consent calendar, the approval of the minutes from the Harbor Advisory Board meeting held last month, May 1st, 2014. Trust you've all had a chance to review the minutes. Are there any changes or amendments to the minutes as presented? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion to approve.
I so move to approve the minutes.
Moved by Bill,
I'll second.
seconded by Gene. Any discussion? No discussion. We'll call the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries unanimously. We'll now move on to item B on the agenda, public hearings, reports, and appearances. We'll move on to the Harbor Department status report. Eric Indersby, our Harbor Director, had to be two places at once tonight, and he couldn't figure out how to do that. So he is over at the budget workshop with the City Council up at the Community Center. There was a scheduling conflict, and in his stead is Becca Kelly, I know that you're head of the Harbor Patrol, but what's your official title, Becca?
Thank you for having me tonight. I am the Harbor Patrol Supervisor.
Supervisor of our Harbor Patrol. So thank you, welcome. Good to have you here, Becca, and your report, please.
Okay, yes, thank you. Bear with me here as I read through what Eric has prepared for the meeting tonight. Our North T Pier maintenance and repair has been well underway now this month. The south leg of the pier has been opened up, is under full construction. We have good progress going. However, we did discover an additional edge beam work that needs to be done, which requires additional funding. Total price of the project was somewhere in the $750,000 range. We're looking for an additional $50,000 for the additional work that needs to be done. But no additional unknown problems have been uncovered at this time. You'll see there's been piles that have been put in the last couple weeks. We have more coming in tomorrow, so that work's been going well. In the lease news, we had at the last City Council meeting a new 2-year lease agreement for the Morro Bay Hookers baiting service to continue and conduct business out at our Harbor Department storage yard at the end of the Embarcadero Dirt Road. This lease is now meeting an appraised value in what they are paying for their monthly fees, and there will be some changes to the way that the area looks. We'll be doing new fencing, especially with the new boardwalk extending out that road. There's some new items in the agreement that should help with the public eye down there. The Harbor Department recently was awarded a grant for $37,425 from the San Luis Obispo County Integrated Waste Management authority to rebuild our used oil collection facility located on Front Street in the parking lot there. This grant is also being coupled with a $10,000 grant that we received from the Morro Bay National Estuary Program. We will be building a new state-of-the-art facility. We're quite excited about that, including also a new oil water separator on the South T Pier. We have quite a bit of use from the commercial fishing fleet and other local boaters. We are recycling oil daily, and having the oil water separator is also very key to be able to dispose of oily bilge water. The Coastal Commission development permit was recently waived also, which will allow us to proceed here shortly. The dredging in the bay is now complete. The Army Corps of Engineers ship, the Aquina, was here for 20 days dredging. They moved about 9,000 cubic yards of material per day. We have a survey boat coming up this next week to give us the final readings of the depths. But all in all, that was a successful project so far. Recent events, we did hold our christening of our new boat, 3864. We had a great turnout, as you said, and we'd like to thank again Bill LaFay and Dana McClish for coming out and kicking off the efforts to form the Friends of the Harbor Department, a nonprofit group to help support our department and activities. On Memorial Day, the Harbor Patrol was again an integral participant in the annual Lost at Sea ceremony in Cayucas at the pier. Our role is to transfer the wreath of flowers out to sea, and we spray an arc of water in memory of those lost at sea. We were joined by the county sheriff's boat and Fish and Wildlife boat as well. It's always a great turnout there in Cayucas. Upcoming events, not tomorrow, on Saturday, June 7th, the Morro Bay Music Festival will be at Tidelands Park. This is a family fun event, features local bands, food, music, vendors, beer and wine, and that's from 11 to 7 at Tidelands Park. And on Sunday, June 8th, the Tognazzini's Dockside 2 will be hosting the 5th Annual Oyster and Beer Festival from 11 a.m. until dark, and this has 100% proceeds to go to the 4th of July fireworks.
Thank you, Becca. Any questions or comments for our Harbor Patrol Supervisor? First, I have a quick question. Did we take our new patrol vessel up to the pier for Memorial Day?
Yes, we did.
So I bet we had a very impressive arc from our new high-pressure monitor.
We did. We have a couple photos. I was actually up on the pier during it, and it looked like we were spraying the water over the top of the other two boats that were there and missing them, but it was good.
Gave us a chance
Brilliant.
to show off.
Yeah.
Very nice. Questions or comments for Becca? I'll start down at this end, please. Alan?
I'd just like to know how far down the channel the Aquina was able to dredge.
They made it down just south of the South T Pier, not quite all the way to the fuel dock, but turned around in that area.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And we are glad that the red buoys went back in today.
Any other questions or comments from this side? Over here? Ron?
Becca, regarding the oily water separator on the T Pier, I have a couple of questions. The first one is, who has access to it? Who can use it? Secondly, do the users need to provide their own containers for the separated oil slops? And then, third question, I presume, but I don't want to assume, that they would then dispose of those in the new oil disposal system. Is that correct?
Yes. The oil water separator is controlled. It's a locked shed that we have to be present for to open it up and actually assist someone from the public to use. Anyone is welcome to come down and ask to use it. There's no, everyone's welcome to come down, but we are actually in control of the use of it and make sure it's used correctly. The oil is actually separated into a container right there on the pier, and when we have the vacuum truck come, they come to pump our larger container. We have a 450-gallon containment in the Front Street parking lot. They also drive out on the pier and vacuum out the container on the pier.
Thank you. Is there a fee for the use of the separator?
There is no fee for the separator or for disposing of oil filters with us. We also take coolant, and we also take the absorbent pads, and we do an exchange program with the absorbent pads. If you bring oiled ones in, we'll give you some clean ones.
And my last question is the boats, the Harbor Department knows and has access to, by then I mean communication access to many of the boats that moor and dock in the harbor. Has some notification been sent out to all those potential users regarding the separator?
I believe in the past we used to have a newsletter that went out that I'm sure at some point probably had comments on, don't forget the oil water separator is available to you. We have not put out any public word on it recently. Possibly when our new system is up and running, we can get a word out in all of our buildings and maybe some flyers posted along the Embarcadero. I did want to make a point as well for the separator. It's possible you don't have to actually come just with your oily water in buckets. You can pull your boat actually up alongside the pier, and we have a hose that can dip down into your boat as well. So yes, you provide your own buckets if you are coming by bucket. Otherwise, come by boat. We'll help you out.
Yes, Alan.
How is the new separator better than the old one?
Well, I haven't seen the new separator yet myself, but I am assuming it will be a bigger capacity and maybe a quicker system. Right now, in the process of oil and water separating, you do need to let them settle out anyway, but we may have a bigger capacity to be able to take more in at a time before we skim off the oil.
Okay, I just mentioned it because in the past, whenever I tried to use it, I would always plug it up, and then they would tell me not to come back.
Maybe it'll have a better screen on it, and yes, we get it plugged up often.
Yeah, I had something
not
in
just
my
you.
bilge that was not good. Okay.
Okay.
So you were that guy that was always plugging it up. Any other questions, comments for our director's report as delivered by our supervisor? And any other comments, Becca, with regard to that report?
Nope.
All right, thank you. We appreciate that. That completes item B1. We'll now move on to item C, unfinished business. And so for these next items, the unfinished business and new business, we will reopen for public comment. The way we do that, I'll explain the flow, the sequence of events. We'll first receive our staff report. We'll ask any questions of staff at that time. We won't begin to deliberate the issue at that time, but we'll ask any questions. Then we'll open up for public comment, and then close public comment, and then we will deliberate the issue. So that's how we will proceed through these items. So we are now on item C1, unfinished business, which is the revised request from Verge's Sport Fishing to develop the currently vacant lease site 107W-10W8 and to place an informational kiosk in the area. So, Becca, your report on this, please.
Okay, yes, we are requesting you to make recommendations to the City Council on this tonight. The background you've received, this started in the spring of 2013. There was an RFP put out for this vacant water-only lease site. Verges submitted their proposal. Harbor Advisory Board voted unanimously to recommend approval of this proposal. City Council seemed supportive of it, but they were concerned. It sounded like that area could be used for a boat haul out. So now we have come back again. City Council just recently in April voted to accept a Morro Bay Fishing Community Sustainability Plan, which includes extensive boatyard and marine services facility to be looked at. Again, this could be a place where it could be located. But Verges is still interested in this lease site. Tonight, they have come back with a revised plan to look at scaling way back from their initial plan. They have a dock and gangway that they want to put in the water alongside the pier, and a kiosk up at the base, somewhere up in the base of the pier or along the boardwalk there. A key point, I guess, to this discussion tonight is that the Verges is requesting support for the installation of the dock, kiosk, and gangway, but they are also willing to remove the dock and gangway in the future if a boat haul out is deemed plausible in this location. So any recommendations tonight or comments would be helpful from you tonight. And I think there's a presentation as well.
All right, thank you, Becca. Any questions with regard to the staff report? Yes, Gene.
Yeah, on the little kiosk boathouse, who owns that right now?
I believe that is our wheelhouse. It's been stored in our harbor yard for as long as I can remember. And it looks like they have a plan to fix it up nicely, to put it out in the public.
Thank you, Gene. Other questions? All right, seeing no other questions at this time, we'll move on to public comment on this item. And we'll start off with the presentation from the agent. Did you have a comment before? Okay, I'm sorry, just one quick comment here, Kathy.
I apologize. I might not be able to see it, but in the diagram here, where is the kiosk located?
The kiosk?
Kiosk, if I'm not, I don't see that on the plans here.
I don't think it was put on the plans because it's still being decided upon in that general location, close in the vicinity of the dock, gangway, pier.
Okay.
Maybe we'll find out further.
Yeah, the agent will probably be able to address that.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem. Thank you, Bill. So we'll open up public comment at this time. When you come up, please state your name and city of residence. And for the agent, you're entitled to some extra time. Otherwise, we please ask that you keep your comments limited to, we're pretty informal here, 3 or 4 minutes. Thank you.
Great. Good evening, Chair Eccles and members of the board. My name is Kathy Novak, Morro Bay from Novak Consulting. I'm here tonight representing Ms. Sharon Morris for her proposal. As noted in your staff report, there is 2 items for your board to discuss. For my presentation tonight, I will start with the kiosk and then discuss the dock proposal. Staff has provided some history on the kiosk concept in your report, so I'll start from the present and move forward. The main purpose of the kiosk is to have a satellite visitor information center on the waterfront that was originally proposed to promote the 2 sport fishing businesses, Verges and Central Coast Sport Fishing. The intent of the kiosk now is not to limit the use to 1 or 2 specific businesses, but rather to promote water-related recreational opportunities such as fishing, kayaking, and boating. We are proposing that the kiosk be the old wheelhouse from one of the commercial fishing boats. We believe this is a good way to tie in the working waterfront design and also recognize our important fishing heritage. The wheelhouse is in a state of disrepair. However, with local carpentry help, we can transform this into a nice attraction on the T-Pier. The wheelhouse makeover would include things such as wood repair, fresh paint, and in addition to add to the base so it is tall enough for folks to actually walk inside. The concept for this inside is to have racks for brochures from local businesses. This would become a visitor center, if you will, and another way for everyone to get information on things to do and places to go here in Morro Bay. Having the brochures inside the kiosk will also protect them from the elements. Last on this subject, we are looking at locating the kiosk near the base of the T-pier so it'll be close to the harbor walk and visible to the folks strolling by. And I'll deviate here for just a moment, Bill, to answer your question. We haven't really actually come up with a specific location. What the idea was that we would work with the harbor department, and if your board this evening has a specific area that they'd like us to target, we'd be happy to look at that, but we were mainly going to work with the office to determine that. Next, I'd like to discuss the second part of the agenda item tonight, which is the dock proposal. In May 2013, the city issued an RFP for lease sites 107 and 108W on the south side of the South T-pier. As you are aware, we have been before your board and the council a couple of times to present a project that included new building and docks. However, this council has expressed a desire to hold off on allowing this proposal to go forward until they have had some more time and information regarding the possibility of a boat haul-out. In the meantime, I requested that the City Council consider allowing Ms. Moores to construct a dock-only project since there is a critical need for an additional boat space for the sport fishing operations. Hence, the proposal for you tonight is to construct a dock and gangway on the 107W lease site only. We took the original building and dock plan and overlaid a new dock proposal so you can see that in red that you would have a benefit of clearly seeing how the new plan relates to the previous one we had. And just for folks here, so this is the new dock. This would be adjacent to the T-pier rather than the other proposal, which was to go on a north-south location. And then we would put in a landing and right here with the gangway coming down onto the dock. We are suggesting that the orientation of this new dock run basically east and west and adjacent to the T-pier as opposed to north and south from the configuration before. Other modification would be to install the landing, like I just said, for a gangway to attach to and then down onto the dock. In recognition of the outstanding boat haul-out facility issue, I want to make sure that the board also understands that we told the council that Ms. Moores is willing to accept a condition of approval that would remove the dock in the event the space is needed for the boat haul-out facility. This is the modest alternative, but in the meantime, it would help if we could move forward with this dock project. I'd also like to make it clear for the board that this is a revised project is only for the dock, the landing, and the gangway, and no other structures, but even though we have that on this plan. In closing, what I would like to respectfully ask the board to move forward on is a recommendation to the City Council that, one, would allow Ms. Moores to move forward on the rehabilitation and installation of the old wheelhouse to be used as a marine-related information kiosk located at the South T-pier. Two, I would request that we ask to waive the planning and permitting fees associated with this installation for this kiosk. And the third would be to send a favorable recommendation to the council for the new dock-only proposal as I presented to you tonight. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Kathy. Are there any questions from board members for the agent? Ron? Kathy, would you please come back to the podium? Thank you.
Sure. Good evening.
I just have a single question. Would Verge's staff the kiosk for its own purposes, having to do with, the charter, the sport fishing charter? Would this kiosk ever be staffed by anybody?
There's a potential that the staff person could come in, but Sharon is willing to, if there's, for example, if there's another business, the sport fishing business that would like to have the equal opportunity, if they wanted to put a staff person in the kiosk, she'd be amenable to working on some hours that the kiosk could be shared with a staff person somehow, so it's equitable for all the businesses and not just for Verge's. But the idea on the inside is to put brochures from kayaks, sport fishing, the electric boats, whatever, so that everybody has an opportunity to get their brochures out.
So the use of the kiosk by Verge's in support of sport fishing charters is not an integral part of the business plan. I mean, where would it be used to gather people down to load a boat? Would it be used as a gathering area? Would Verge's direct its folks for a given charter to go down and meet at the kiosk as opposed to meet at the dock? I mean, help me understand how it would work. I mean, I love the idea. It's a great idea, and it's very creative on the part of Verge's. But how would Verge's utilize it in its business plan?
Well, I think that there's several different opportunities. One, that you make a very good point, is the trouble that Verge is having right now, too, is getting people up on Market Street to the tackle shop and then back down to the dock and telling where people are at. If we had some sort of a mechanism we could point people, go to the old wheelhouse on the T-pier, then it's going to be a little easier for folks to find the actual dock where they need to board the boat. So that would be one help, definitely. It would be nice in the summertime if we had folks that were in the kiosk, whether it be Sharon's group or maybe Morro Bay Landing or somebody down there, as people strolled by up and down the waterfront, that they could just talk to the folks and give them information about sport fishing in general in the area and try to keep promote business in Morro Bay in general, to help direct people to, if they ask a question, let's say, gee, I want to rent a kayak, where should I go? That would also be helpful. So I think that there's several opportunities, and if you have some specific limitations that you would not like to see, then I think it would be very helpful for the board to express those now so that we know exactly if there's some things that you really would not like to see.
I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to discuss it at some point.
Bill?
As Ron said, I do like the key sock idea tremendously, but I really feel that Verges and yourself should actually control the whole thing. I mean, this thing about, well, we're going to share it, we're going to do this, I just don't quite understand it. I mean, if you're going to do it and spend your money putting it down there, then you should control it. I mean, if you want to allow other businesses there, fine, but I just think it would get kind of murky, and if you don't just say, this is ours, we did it, we paid for it, and this is our vehicle to do that. I mean, I just don't understand the shared thing, to be honest with you. I think that could get a little bit fuzzy as we move forward.
Well, originally when we started this idea a few years back, the Central Coast Sport Fishing was operating down in the middle part of the Embarcadero, and they had a real concern that if Verges had a kiosk at that end, then she would like to have the same opportunity down at the other end. And actually, we had discussed an idea of putting something down around the chessboard. Well, unfortunately, since we lost Michelle, then that kind of idea went away, and then the concept went away. But I think what we're trying to avoid is any kind of conflict with the other businesses here in town. So we're trying to make an equitable proposal that would include somebody else, so that we don't run the risk of having our neighbors say, wait a minute, this isn't fair because, you're down here. So we wanted to give the opportunity to make it open and shared so that nobody wouldn't have any problems with equality.
What did your competitor state on this? I mean, are they for this? I mean, have they expressed an interest, or have you talked to them?
We haven't talked to them lately, but we'd be happy to talk to them and find out. We just wanted to get this idea rolling again because it's been a couple of years since anybody has seen it. The council at one point in time had discussed it and liked the idea. And at the time, if I remember correctly, the council was also interested in not having it solely used by one business. Okay. That was more of an open.
Did you have a follow-up, Ron?
I did. I'm sure as I sit here, there's going to be some democratic element to this in order to get it approved with the city. That's just a personal commentary. So I applaud that that's part of your concept. If Verge's operation pays for the improvements to the city-owned semi-derelict wheelhouse, which I'm familiar with, would that be a donation to the city, or what would you do about your investment, your equity investment?
She said a donation. She's got crews available to do the work, so she's not estimating that it's going to take a lot of effort. The other one thing I'll just mention real quickly, it just came to my thought, and I remember from earlier on and when we were talking about this concept, is one of the issues that came up was this is city property, the South T-pier that this is going on, and so that was the other big issue as far as allowing other businesses to go in and not having it solely for one business just because of the location being on the T-pier and city property.
Yeah, this is, I'm not quite sure whether this is the appropriate time to do this, so I'll couch it as a question. Have you folks considered, insofar as staffing and maintaining, and I don't mean physically maintaining, I mean maintaining it as a within the public benefit concept that you're talking about now. Have you folks considered getting together with the tourism people or the visitor center insofar as staffing the thing is concerned and keeping it up and running? I mean, I really like the idea personally of Verges having an opportunity to have its people in there when it needs to have its people in there to do the business. I mean, I think that's very important. But again, in anticipation of the city requiring, if you will, and I'm not speaking for the city, but I anticipate that they will require some broader utilization, that it might be a good idea to put together some unified use program.
Yes, Sharon said that she's talked to some already, and we will definitely follow up with folks. If the board recommends favorably on this issue tonight, then we can launch off and do a little bit more detailed campaign and contacting folks and trying to come up with something.
Down at this end?
Yes, Kathy. It seems to me that if the kiosk was located at the top of the gangway, the proposed gangway going down to the proposed floating dock, that the city would almost be, in a sense, supporting Verges by putting this kiosk right there at the top of the gangway. Somebody comes up and they want to go to where we can go sport fishing. Well, they say, oh, you can go right here, or you can go down the block a couple ways. So I don't know. If the kiosk was located midway between, say, Morro Bay Landing and Verges proposal area, then that would be more equitable. I hope you can understand my concern. If it's located on the top of the gangway, I feel as though we're leaning towards supporting Verges, which I support Verges, but I don't know whether we should be doing that or not. And then, are we talking just about the kiosk right now or the floating dock also? If we're talking about the floating dock, that would then be affixed to the South T Pier?
Correct.
That's correct. If I'm not mistaken, I think there's a bunch of cross bracing right there. It may cause some problems as the rings around the piling try to go up and down, but that has to be determined. So.
Yeah, we would definitely need to look at it. You know, we haven't put a lot of energy into developing a plan yet because we really needed to get started with the concept first and then get to the city council and have the city, with the way that the city is doing business now, we need to go to the council and get concept approval.
Right. I know.
For lack of better something to call it.
Goes, yeah.
So, and then once from that point, then we could actually submit an application, then we could put energy into, you know, looking exactly what we need to do to be able to accomplish that so it works out construction-wise.
Right.
Backing up on the kiosk, you know, I think we're amenable to listening to suggestions. It was just that the idea was putting it on the South T Pier came out from, I believe, like, 3 or 4 years ago, that when we were talking about this, and then also like the one down the chessboard. If you've got a location that you can think of, the only problem I see is that there's really not too much room when you leave GAFCO and you walk northward, that the Harbor Walk is not that wide, and then you've got the parking lot, so we run into some limitations. And we can always pull it back on the base of the T-Pier a little closer to the actual Harbor Walk itself, as long as we don't interfere with the electrical box or the gate on the other side, so it wouldn't be sitting right at the gangway.
Yeah, you can understand my concern.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why we were there wasn't any plan to, on the outside of the wheelhouse, to, put Verges fishing across the whole entire wheelhouse, but something in there that would let people know that this is really an information center and encourage people to walk in, and then all the brochures would be equally displayed on the inside so that not one business would have prominent signage on the outside of this kiosk.
Okay.
Becca, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you've considered a computer station or something inside the kiosk where, kind of like at an airport where you can book yourself in for your flight. You could book yourself in for a sport fishing trip or a kayak or a bay tour with any of the companies. Like if you're considering opening it up to all the businesses, it could be nice it might not have to be somebody staffing it, but it could be a computer station.
Well, I think all those ideas are great. I think if we can start out with getting something located there and starting with, paper copies of brochures first, and then maybe later on, if there's an opportunity, because, you'd have to be concerned with computer, you'd have to be running electrical out there to operate the computer, and then any kind of, make sure the security is so that it wouldn't, for theft, and there's some other things. But it could lead to something, and I think a long time ago, we had kind of talked a little bit about that idea of, making these little computer stations up and down the Embarcadero for folks to be able to use. So this could blossom into something a lot larger that could be utilized by a lot of folks.
Ellen?
I'm just curious why the gangway's orientation, why did you elect to change it?
Well, because I didn't bring my laser pointer. We're changing the actual dock configuration. The old dock we had proposed in the first project was running north to south, and now that we're going to run it along the T-pier, then we got to do the gangway. Otherwise, the gangway wouldn't go to the dock.
Well, I should change my question. Why is the dock orientation changed?
We were just trying to, with the design with the building, it makes sense because you've got the piles out there in the building and et cetera. But if you don't have a building proposed, then you don't necessarily need to drive those piles out there and then just put a dock that just comes out from the South T-pier.
So
it would kind of be the dock with nothing else around it. So we thought in the meantime it would be better to change the configuration this way so that we can keep that area open and then not talk about driving a lot of new piles to support a new dock. And that would also help keep the cost down.
So it would be significantly more expensive to have it the other way?
Yes.
Okay.
Because if we're talking about driving piles to be able to put the dock in, but if we can utilize the T-pier piles that are there now to the best as possible, we could eliminate a lot of that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Kathy? Lynn?
Yes, you made the comment that you would be willing to remove this dock if the need arose to use the area for the haul-out yard.
Yes.
In order to assure that would be possible, would it be in perhaps an escrow account or something written into more than just the contract or more than just the lease, that the expense for that would be covered?
I think it would be very difficult to ask somebody to put money in an escrow account that has no realization of any kind of a sunset at any point in time. I mean, we could be talking about, a long time. But the city traditionally, in master leases, treats things like this in the master lease. And I think that the city does its best ability when they're preparing the master leases to take a look at any potential issue and try to figure out how to best protect the city that actually happened. I think that would be fair to treat Sharon that way because every other leaseholder on the Embarcadero and even one that was recently negotiated down on the south end of town was done that way. When the fuel dock down at when the Merlin Coakley's place sold, and the city went through and did a new lease with those folks, there was some issues regarding taking out part of the building and doing some things like that. The city did not require an escrow account. They just put the teeth in the lease. I think that's fair treatment for everybody that's been treated
I wasn't actually suggesting an escrow account. It was the only thing that I could think of, some kind of
anything
assurance.
like that. But I think that the city has the teeth within the master lease itself. And yes, does the city always run a risk with anybody that they sign a lease with, that if they put something in a lease that requires something down the road, if it doesn't happen, what do they do? But I think that's, and in a case like this, when we're only talking about a dock, I don't think that the cost involved for if the city were to have to take it out for some particular reason wouldn't be that great. Besides, the city might want it.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Kathy? Gene?
Yeah, maybe it's not so much with Kathy, but just a comment that normally if you're on a yearly site, you can build on your lease site, and you can't support on an adjacent lease site to build on your property. You can't build using your neighbor's property. And in this case, we're asking to affix the dock to the city's property. If it's okay with legally, then I guess it's okay with me.
Well, it's a city lease site, so the city is actually the property owner of the lease site and the T-Pier, and they're both in the Tidelands Trust. So the city is the property owner, so the city would be granting the authority to build on both of the city's property.
Okay.
Anything else? Thank you, Kathy. We appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Public comment is still open. Anyone wishing to address this item, please come forward. State your name and city of residence. You need to come on up, please. Come on up to the podium.
You guys are getting interested in this, but is this the South T-Pier we're talking? Excuse me, John Gillespie, a resident of the area. I was wondering if that is the South T-Pier we're looking at here?
Correct.
And that dock is for access for what? Who's going to?
Be for commercial fishing vessels.
I see.
Or, well, charter, sport fishing, I'm sorry, sport fishing.
Sport fishing. And the
fishing.
kiosk was going to go where on this thing? The proposed waiting deck? Is that how it is? The waiting deck there? Is that? Oh, sorry. I guess the thing that's termed the proposed waiting deck, is that the kiosk you're talking about?
From the presentation, there's not a specific location for the kiosk yet.
Oh, okay. All right. That's all I wanted to know. Thanks
All
a
right,
lot.
thank you, David. Or John, sorry. We're getting discombobulated here. Any other comments? All right, public comment is hereby closed. So we'll now move on to discussion of this item by the board members. I'll start some of the discussion. I can tell you that off the bat, I'm in favor of the proposal. I'll put a motion out there pretty quickly. It seems to me, because we've already had quite a bit of questions and answers and discussion, it seems to me one of the key items with regard to the kiosk, there are a lot of details that need to be worked out, the location and how it's shared and what goes in there. To me, those are details down the road that can work themselves out. The key item seems to me to be whether it's exclusive use by Verges or non-exclusive use. So to me, that's the linchpin. So if I'm the one that makes a motion, I'll put that in my motion. That's the biggie to me. The rest can be worked out down the road. I mean, I'll let somebody else worry about the color of the paint and where it's located. Other discussion? Alan? Is your mic on, Alan?
Oh, I've left it on,
Thank
actually, as usual. This dock that they're proposed putting, are they, along with that dock, are they acquiring the use of, I mean, are they paying for the entire, that particular lease site that's in the larger square here?
So let's ask the agent on that. I know originally there were the two sites, Kathy. Is this now just reduced to the one site, or is it still both sites but without putting the structure on?
Actually, the proposal would be just for this particular area within lease site 107W. The 108W is the one south of that, and there wouldn't be anything in that lease site, so there wouldn't be a need to do any kind of lease with the city on that part.
Okay. So this just is for 107 now?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And help me out, 107, is that the large square area where the building was formerly going to be built?
107 is the parcel right next to the base of the T-Pier, to the south T-Pier.
This parcel?
Yes.
Yep, closest to the T-Pier.
So nobody else will be able to use that parcel?
108.
107. What's the question specifically?
By giving them this lease for this side tie on the south T-Pier, then is that lease site is put in limbo then?
Well, they're two separate lease sites anyway. I mean, they're two separate spots. The original proposal was to lease both of those sites together jointly. It would be two lease sites, but they are two separate lease sites.
Are you talking about this one and this one?
Yes, 107 and 108.
But they were only going to lease 5 feet of 108.
No,
right?
they'll be taking all of 107.
But I mean, their building, their original proposal only extended into this lease site by a few feet, and they were talking about changing the border to accommodate that. Anyway, that's not what my discussion is. It's just we're talking about putting off their original proposal because of the possibility that the boatyard might be going in. I can see that I don't know, but it seems like there would still be room for a boatyard with this thing there, possibly. I'm going out on a limb here, but if they're going to, if they have control of this parcel, this kiosk can be located on that parcel, and then nobody's going to be saying it's on public community property. I mean, they can, as Bill was saying, they're going to put the kiosk in, and why shouldn't it be theirs exclusively? It just seems like there's an opportunity here to accommodate them to this degree and still leave room for the boatyard, and maybe the whole thing could work together. Anyway, getting too long here.
It seems to me that that's what this proposal is trying to attain, that end that you just mentioned. Any other discussion? Questions, comments? Bill?
I just think that Verges has tried, for probably the last 2 years to get something built, and I think they've been faced with a lot of roadblocks. And this is, I think, a simple approach to trying to gain a little bit more visibility down there, and I think that we should support them. And if by some chance the boat haul out is there, they're willing to take it out. I mean, they're willing to do this, Chris. So I think we should try to accommodate Verges as best as we possibly can. That's my feeling.
I get the sense that we're ready for a motion, if someone would like to propose one. I scribbled down some notes as Kathy was speaking. So I move that the Harbor Advisory Board recommend to the City Council that they approve the proposal by Verges as presented to include the use of the wheelhouse and a waiver of the permitting fees for the kiosk, provided it is not for the exclusive use of Verges, and further to approve the side tie dock proposal. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Bill. So now we can move on to discussion. I think hopefully I did that justice. Do I get a nod out there from the agent? Okay, a few moving parts with this. So again, I agree, Bill, entirely with what you just mentioned. I concur with that sentiment. And the biggie to me is with the kiosk is just that it's not for the exclusive use of Verges, but Verges has been working hard at getting back on the waterfront, and I am certainly in support of helping them do that. Other discussion? No other discussion on the motion on the floor? Ron?
Let me just take the opportunity of discussion of this motion to thank Ms. Moores and company for a long, suffering effort that I think is important to the community.
All right. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll move on to a vote. So the motion is to approve the proposal as submitted, including using the wheelhouse as a kiosk for the non-exclusive use of Verges, and approve the side tie dock as proposed. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you. Good job. That concludes item C1, unfinished business. And we'll move on to new business. Item D1 is a request by Jack Hansen for a waiver of requirement to qualify for a commercial fishing slip. Thank you, Kathy. Jack, I'll ask you this, Jack. I'll give you the call on this. We'll open this up for public comment. Would you like to give your presentation first and then public comment, or would you like public comment? You may have some friends or supporters in the audience that you'd like to speak before you. Okay. All right. So what we'll do is we will first hear from staff, our staff report. Then we'll open up public comment. Jack will have an opportunity to speak, and anyone else that would like to speak to this issue, and then we will deliberate on it. So our staff report, please, Becca.
Okay, this is a request for you to make a recommendation to the harbor director on whether or not a waiver is to be granted to Jack Hansen to continue to use this slip with the city. In summary, the city provides 48 commercial qualified fishing slips. In order to qualify, a fisherman must provide annually proof of a certain level of fishing effort, whether it be in fish tickets or fuel receipts. Each of those 48 fishermen bring in their qualifications every year. Slip holders are allowed 2 waivers in any 10-year period. Within the last 10 years, there was 1 blanket waiver given and 2 other years where fishermen were allowed to only show proof of having a current salmon permit. So that could be, in essence, thought of as 3 extra waivers in this last 10 years. In the discussion of this, Jack Hansen, the owner of the fishing vessel Darlene, has city slip number 43. He did ask and exercised the 2 waivers, one in 2011 and one in 2012. So his waivers are already allotted. Mr. Hansen turned in fish tickets this year to qualify for his slip. Staff, upon reviewing his fish tickets, found something to be slightly off in a couple of them and went further into investigating them. This required quite a bit of staff time, and it was determined that 2 of his fish tickets were fraudulent. These fish tickets were then handed over to Fish and Wildlife enforcement officers, and when approached, Mr. Hansen did admit to having misappropriated and misused a fish company's receipt book. Fish and Wildlife has in turn turned this case over to the district attorney for prosecution, and Mr. Hansen's remaining valid fish tickets were not sufficient actually to continue to qualify him to retain the use of the slip. At this time, Mr. Hansen has turned in a letter to ask for a 3rd waiver. We have seen other fishermen come and ask for waivers in the past, 3rd waivers in the past. None quite in the same fashion, but they have been granted in the past. As far as fiscally, there is no impact on the Harbor Department whether this waiver is granted or denied. The slip could be filled. We have 8 additional boats qualified on the wait list at this time, or if Jack chooses, is allowed to stay, he would continue to pay the slip fees. If he is denied his appeal tonight, he will be required to vacate this slip at the end of June, and he has remained in the slip until now, through this year. So, any questions for me?
Thank you, Becca. So conversely, if this appeal request was granted, he would be able to stay there until the end of this calendar year and then have to qualify for 2014 in order to stay. Is that correct?
That's correct. If he's granted a waiver, he would be allowed to stay in the slip for the remainder of 2014, but we would be asking for no additional waivers to be given in the next available 10-year period to him. So in January, if he didn't have fish tickets for this year, he would be asked to leave the slip.
Right. Okay. Any other questions with regard to Becca's report? Alan?
Yeah, I'm a little confused. He took a waiver in 2011 and 2012, is that what you said? Or?
Yes.
And then 2013, was that the tickets that he just submitted that were determined to be partially fraudulent, or did he qualify in 2013?
The fish tickets are given for the year previous. So in 2013, those are the tickets that he just turned in to us.
To qualify for 2014?
Correct.
And how did he qualify for 2013?
I don't have that information with me tonight.
But he evidently did.
He evidently did.
Okay. That's all.
Any other questions with regard to the staff report? No? Okay. We will now move on to public comment, and we'll give Mr. Hansen an opportunity to address the board. So, Jack, please come forward. Jack, we'll allocate 5 minutes for your presentation. When you've got 1 minute left to go, Jack, I'm going to wave up here for you, and that means 1 minute left.
Okay.
Thank you.
I really don't know where to start, actually. I got myself in a bad position. I realize that, but why I didn't qualify in 2011, it wasn't my own medical problems. It was my crew had a heart attack 2 days before the salmon season started. I lost a month waiting for him to recover. Next year, I got hit by a whale. Alan would understand some of the problems that go on, but my boat got hit by a whale. I had to come home from Monterey and fix the damage, and I lost a good percentage of the season. It wasn't medical. But I would say 13, which I didn't qualify for, I don't believe. Did you say that I qualified for 13 or not, Becca? I'm not sure.
I don't have that information with me.
Oh, okay.
I'm not
Well,
sure. You must have qualified if it's not written down here.
I'm a little confused on that, actually, because I don't think I qualify. That's what I'm trying to qualify for now, I believe, is 13.
Well, it's not. It's 2014.
So my understanding was...
We're a year behind.
Yeah, my understanding was for the prior year. So he submits permits in the beginning of 2014 for the prior year. Do I have it backwards, or...
I think it's 2013 I'm trying to qualify for now.
So according to the staff report, you had a waiver in 2011 and 2012.
Right.
And then in order to qualify for 2013, at the beginning of 2014, you would have to submit
Right,
to
yeah,
show that
okay.
you fished for
That's
90
where we're
days
at.
during 2013.
Okay. Well, that would be 2013. We fished for 2 months. We were gone from the harbor for 2 months. We had the poorest season we ever had in history. I didn't qualify. I knew that when I come home. I had $10,000 worth of fish. I need $13,000 to qualify. I was $3,000 short, and I sat and tried to figure out what I could do, what my options were. I got an oxygen machine on the boat, which has got me kind of loused up physically. I tried to think what I could do if I lost my slip. I can't go out in the mooring. I can't go out and anchor because I need 110 continuously to run this machine. And another option was to get in the car and drive over to Benedict Ready and sit in the parking lot and wait. I didn't know really what to do. And I had this receipt book on the boat for sales, off sales of fish. And so I made up 2 or 3 fish tickets to cover the $3,000 that I needed, which I knew was a mistake, but I felt I shouldn't have really been forced into that position. I shouldn't have. After 33, I've been in that slip since 1980, and I think I've qualified enough in those years with fish production. And I won't say any more, really, but my personal feeling, I brought this up once before here, but something needs to be done about the qualifications. I was one of the people that helped write the qualifications years ago when I was president of the Commercial Fishermen's Association. And one of the things that I see was overlooked was I seem to notice now that our fleet is really aging. and fast. And I'd like to see a change in the qualifications, not for me personally, but for what I see going around me, is that any commercial fisherman that's reached the age of 70 and has had a commercial slip, not one certain slip, city slip, for a period of 10 years, needs no qualifying. He's done his qualifying. So that's really all I have to say. I feel bad about the mistake I made. I know I'm going to have some problems with the fish tickets, but I felt I had no way out. I couldn't go tie up to the T-pier and go up and down a ladder. I was in a bad situation. I didn't know what to do, and I took the easy way out. So that's it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Jack. Appreciate your comments. We also have in our packet your letter, and your last sentence in the letter that you wrote to the board says, "I plan to fish this coming season." Just wanted to clarify. So you do plan on fishing during the calendar year 2014?
Let me go into that just a little bit. Mm-hmm. I haven't been out this season yet, and a lot of the people that have gone and left wish they had not left the dock like I have, because they haven't even paid for the fuel up in San Francisco. A lot of the guys don't have fuel to get home. So I'm one of the fortunate ones, but I'm not at the dock because I want to be. My son wants my boat. I wish to hell I'd sold my boat 5 years ago and got a cabin in the woods someplace. But I live on my boat. It's my home. My son wants my boat, so and he has to come up and help me with some engine room work and things like that. And he was supposed to come up Memorial Day, and he couldn't make it. But we will be fishing this probably near the end of the month. We'll try to qualify, but we hope it's the qualification things get squared away, because I think it's kind of. I talked to an attorney a little bit, and he said it's kind of fringing on elderly abuse. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jack. Appreciate your comments. Public comment period is still open. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to address this issue, please come forward and state your name for the record. And these comments will be limited to 3 minutes.
Dave Akey, Los Osos. I just wanted to state that I've known Jack for a number of years. And yes, he was a commercial fisherman, and age has caught up with him. Regardless of what this board does regarding his request for qualifications that could be possibly changed, I would just like to ask this board to show some compassion and grant him a waiver for this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Steve Yarling, liveaboard, ex-commercial fisherman. He's done his time in life. We all get old. All of you are going to get old. I urge you to have some humanity and grant him.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Tom Hayford, Tascadero, president of the Morro Bay Fishing Organization. I've known Jack ever since I've been fishing. I've been fishing 42 years. And, you know, Jack's a lot older now than he used to be when he fished albacore and salmon. And he has had some problems, you know, with his health. And maybe we need to look at this slip qualification thing when the guys get older, because we do have a lot of guys that are getting up in their age now, and I'm sure there's going to be some waivers put in from people getting sick since everybody's getting a little older now. And maybe we should just maybe take a look at this thing and make some exceptions for the guys that are over a certain age, that if they can't get out and catch your fish, or if there's no salmon this year, like, you know, it's not a very good salmon season this year either, there's going to be some problems. So maybe we should just take a look at it this next month. I was going to call a meeting with our directors and maybe look at it like that, and then maybe in August, when we resume the meeting, because we don't have one in July, right? We can talk about it, and maybe we can come up with a proposal that would be fair to the older fishermen in this fleet. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, John Gillespie. I'm a commercial fisherman, have been for, since 1970. I see a situation that I see a lot in fisheries today. Dispirited men, disaffected fishermen, all at the hands of a mismanagement that I've watched for over 35 years of the National Marine Fisheries Service, and its schemes that it's come up with of privatization, stock destruction, if I might lead you into April 15th used to be the salmon season start, and we could fish all the way into October. Now they've given us little pieces of it. A large part of the reason that's happened is they sold off most of the doggone eggs to Chile, to feed their aquaculture farms. There's been so many mismanagement things that have been done in the absence of fisherman input for some agenda that has basically become a privatization scheme, and we're very in the throes of it now. The council trying to mitigate and solve these community quota situations. There's a lot. This is a time of flux in the fishing, and a lot of it is pushing people off to the side, and they're not getting any kind of understanding of the plight that they're in because of these foibles they've run into. I guess the way I'd sum it up is I'm a guy, I'd like to have a slip, commercial slip, but I don't want it bad enough to move a guy like Jack out of his. And I'd withdraw my request if that were the case, because a man's reached that age and has done what he's done and is under the gun of all the things he's had to face with it. All of us fishermen have, or at least the ones that got cut out of the herd in their privatization schemes. I can feel for the man. I can feel for this city if it doesn't see that, because that's a large part of the backbone of Morro Bay and the whole fishing community from here to Alaska and to San Diego. There's a certain protection for these old timers. They're part of the scheme, even if they're just along for the ride. They don't even have to be under contract. It's kind of an old way of doing things, The old guys, they just take care of them. And I appreciate you listening to me about it. Thanks.
Thank you, John. Anyone else for public comment? All right, public comment is hereby closed, and thank you very much for everyone that came up to the microphone. We appreciate your input. So we'll now move on to deliberation of this item. Board members, you've heard your public comment. We've had the staff report. Before we deliberate, any other questions for staff with regard to this item? Is everyone clear on the code? Ron?
For the Harbor Department, or for the board for that matter, seems to me that about 2 months ago we addressed a waiver request, and we deliberated regarding what might be, irrespective of the needs of the applicant, without dismissing those as unimportant. But we discussed the matter of principle of 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever waivers in some period of time, and I just flat can't recall what we decided. But we did come to a determination at that time.
Is that correct, John?
Yeah, that was Mr. Sylvester, and we granted the waiver.
You have Bob before him.
Yep.
Was it 2 or 3?
It was the third.
Oh, wow.
And then the third generally comes along with that stipulation that they can't come back for another waiver until 10 years from that point, because they've used their 2 they've actually used in excess of their 2 for a given 10-year period, which begs some of the question of, do we need to reassess and reevaluate that city code? Other questions? Yes.
One question is on a clarification, and I was under the impression that you couldn't live on your boat as in the commercial fishing slips. Is that incorrect? And I'm not trying to bring up anything, but, so, Jack, you live on your boat?
He has a live aboard permit and is, you can live aboard your boat as a commercial fisherman. There is a monthly fee that you pay to do that and an inspection that happens.
Okay. Thank you.
Alan?
As a transient on the South T Pier, you can also live aboard without a live aboard permit, is that right? I mean, the live aboard prohibition doesn't apply to transients on the T Pier, isn't that correct?
The way it states is you have 60 days.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Becca. Other questions? All right, so what we will do at this point is I'll entertain a motion to grant this waiver. If we're not going to do it, we don't need a motion to not take an action. So if there's no motion, we wouldn't be granting a waiver. So at this time, I'll look for a motion to grant the waiver in a second.
I make the motion.
It's moved by Alan. I'll second that motion. Seconded by Eccles. And we'll move on to discussion. And as the maker of the motion, you get the first floor.
I think it's important, this may be in the back of the rest of your minds, but we found that Jack, out of desperation, resorted to some bending of the rules there, wrote himself some fish tickets. I can understand that. I think we need to, he's being punished for that. I'm sure he's being punished more than any of us can imagine. Once you get the Department of Fish and Game involved and the district attorney, I don't think it's the job of the city to further punish him. I think we need to divorce that from the issue, and the issue is whether or not he should be allowed his third waiver in a 10-year period. And I feel that there are many obvious reasons why that should be granted.
Thank you, Alan. I feel similarly. We're not a law enforcement body. That to me, in looking at this issue, for me, the issue is he didn't qualify for last year, and he's coming and asking for a waiver. So I'm in full support of giving him the waiver out of respect for his time in the industry, the heritage of the fishing industry in this town, in this bay. And I also, frankly, look at the pragmatics of this. We're in the middle of the year. If we decide to grant this waiver, then Mr. Hansen will be in the slip throughout the remainder of this year, another 6.5 months or so, almost 7 months. And then we'll have to requalify if the regulation is not changed. So for that period of time, for 7 months versus going back to 1980 or so when I was in high school with pimples. That's right. So I just don't see the 7 months, frankly, as being worth it with the history of this issue. So that's all. I'll vote to support the waiver. Additional discussion.
Just, as you bring up an interesting point, and you elegantly, Jack, stated that you're going to try to fish this year. So therefore, if you don't reach the quota of $13,000 in the next 7 months, then if we don't change this ordinance, you're going to be in the same conditions. So if we grant you this third waiver, be very much aware that maybe you should take care of some business, in the next 7 months if you don't feel you're going to make that $13,000, or we do not change any of the regulations.
I've already got that plan.
Other discussion? Down at this end? No other discussion? Yes, Lynn.
Yes, I would support giving Mr. Hansen the waiver, if only based on what we have done in the past. We have granted 3 other waivers for health reasons, and I don't really see this as being that much different from those other 3 requests. On that being said, I think in changing or considering changing the qualifications or how they're judged, we want to be very careful to weigh the needs of the current occupants and the needs of the future fishermen in our community, where it would be nice if we had lots of slips and could allow people to stay as long as they wanted to. But if there are fishermen who want those slips in order to become active fishermen, then we really need to weigh those needs of the community as well.
Thank you, Lynn. Yeah, and I would follow up on that. Tom Hafer, who's the president of the Commercial Fishermen's Organization, mentioned that he would like to see this addressed. I would love for this to come first from the CFO to this board. I would love the CFO to come to this board with some ideas of a recommendation, and then for us to take it from there. Alan?
There is definitely, among the membership, there's going to be a diversity of opinion. There are people who are anxiously waiting to get slips, and we've talked a little bit about this. What we're considering is going to be a very mild easing, not opening the floodgate. So that's all.
And I don't want to get too far off topic here of the motion that's on the table, which is the waiver. Any other discussion? No other discussion? All right, we are ready to call the question. The motion on the floor is to grant the 3rd-year waiver to Mr. Hansen with the understanding that if he doesn't qualify for this year, he won't be able to request that waiver under current regulations for another 10 years. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. 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 Any opposed? That carries unanimously. All right. Thank you for the thoughtful discussion, board members, and again, thank you for the input from the public. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And the last item under new business, item D2, the cancellation of our July 3rd Harbor Advisory Board meeting.
I think we should hold it for 2 days.
Eric, so Eric, being as thorough as he generally is, actually did present a staff report to us for this item, which basically says that normally we go dark during July and take a breather, and it's a lighter time. Do you have any input, Becca? Usually there's not too much argument up here from the board on this issue.
I don't have any input. Obviously, 4th of July is on a Friday this year. Thursday would be your meeting. You guys can decide if you'd like to have it or not.
Okay, thank you. Well, speaking of 4th of July on a Friday, that's great. That's the big day for us.
That's going to be a big weekend.
Yeah, we'll be packed. Very good. All right, is there a motion to cancel our July meeting of the Harbor Advisory Board?
Also moved.
Moved by Bill.
Second.
Seconded by Lynn. Any discussion? I really am going to miss you guys. But I'll see you out on the streets in the water. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of canceling the July meeting of the Harbor Advisory Board, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We've had unanimous tonight. Unanimously, every motion has passed unanimously. Very good. So that concludes item D2 under new business. We'll now move on to item E, declaration of future agenda items. Polly, do you have your pending list over there? If you like, I can go to the board members first, and we could come back to that pending list. Or if you're ready, we could go to that pending list.
Yeah, we usually just look at the minutes from the last meeting and just sort of read those through, see what we've done and what could come up, and then you guys can decide what you might want to prioritize for August. So you still had The Harbor Department budget, and obviously tonight is the meeting, which he's doing, so probably that will be the first up in August. We still have tsunami warning and emergency notification. Then there was going to be possible discussion on updating the harbor rules and regulations. That might be a good time in August, as far as Eric was saying, there were so many things that have come up recently about, that we may need some changes going on here. So that may be for August or whatever date you so choose. So the future, then, just to read through the list of at any point in the future, water lease site improvements, including dock configurations, mooring field design and maintenance, slip qualifications for commercial fishing boats, which I guess pertains to tonight. It's discussion. Coast Guard building location plans, that's ongoing. I don't know if August would be quite the time for it, but I think Eric's saying there are meetings that are still currently going on, so that could be in the not too distant future. Planning for power plant property, State Park Marina operating agreement, and finally then the review of the liveaboard ordinance regarding marine surveyor certification and standardization of liveaboard permit inspections.
All right, thank you, Polly. So we still have quite a bit to pick and choose from, Eric and I do, in terms of that list moving forward. And as a reminder, what we do is we look at how busy things are and how timely and pertinent things are, and we put them on the agenda. And we accept your suggestions as well during future agenda item period that we're in now. And then as a notice to members of the public, if you would like to see anything on the agenda, let either Eric or any board member know, and any board member can, of course, bring an item to the board and suggest it for an agenda item. We are limited because we're a Brown Act body, meaning that we can't discuss anything that is not on this agenda. So it's frustrating sometimes to members of the public, even frustrating to us sometimes, that if we want to talk about something for the night, if somebody comes, for instance, during public comment, and we want to talk about something, if it's not on the agenda, believe it or not, by state law, the Brown Act, we cannot do so. So that's why we go through these steps. We're required to do so, and it's not at a city level, it's at a state level. Is there a mention of any future agenda items? Bill?
Considering the fact it's not on here, I was just told, I had a conversation with Jeremiah on Saturday, and he mentioned to me, and I think it's approval, and Tom, you might concur, that Morro Bay was just issued approximately $2 million worth of fish quota, plus the fact that they were issued 5 trawler permits. And if that is a true statement, I think that's an item that should be discussed and highlighted as soon as possible. So whether or not those particular points are true or not, I'd like to put that on the agenda, if it is. Tom, can you comment?
At least a status report.
I'm Tom Hafer. I don't know exactly if it's 2 million or not, and I know about the 5 trawl permits, but yeah, the city did require or get or lease to buy, I guess. And I think it's a done deal, so I think we did get some quota share for the town. So it's community-based, just for Morro Bay.
Okay, thank you, Tom. So we could put then either perhaps a report from Rick Algert if he is around town, or alternatively, Eric could include that in his harbor director's report. Thank you, Bill. Any other suggestions for future agenda items? And we did have concurrence of 3 board members on that. I saw more than 3 heads nodding up and down. Yes, Ron.
A question and a comment. The last of the future agenda items that are listed on the May 1 minutes, which is a review of the liveaboard ordinance regarding marine surveyor certification and standardization of liveaboard permit inspections. I believe that, Eric and I agreed 2 months ago that we would work on this, and we have to a degree, but I believe we'll be ready in August, or he will be ready in August to report on that, and I will work with him to try to see that happens. So you might want to bring that one forward, or check with Eric and make sure he's okay with that. And then I have a question. Mr. Haffer, concerning the existing future agenda item slip qualifications for commercial fishing boats, do you have any sense from a calendar standpoint, when the CFO might be ready to discuss that with us?
I was going to call a meeting this week, so if everybody could show, I haven't set a date yet. I was going to try to call it for Wednesday before everybody leaves for Albacore.
Sure.
And we'll start talking about it. There has been some mentions of maybe if a guy like Jack is...
Tom, I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't want to get into discussion on the issue. We're just
okay.
talking about timing
Yeah.
at this point.
So,
Yeah, then-
actually, let me simplify my question, Tom. Do you think CFO would be ready by August or September?
I think we could be ready by August to some type of proposal, new proposal for it.
So there's an opportunity for the August agenda, and I might suggest we put it on sort of at the end, because we already got a pretty full agenda for August, so that it slides to September. That's 30 days, and given the nature of that particular item, I think that might be okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
And I'll be up there in August, so...
And so I think the message, too, from the board seems to be that timeliness is of the essence with this issue.
Now, you got to remember, too, everybody's leaving for Albacore that is one of the directors. So I'll be the only one, me and Mark will be the only ones in town.
Okay.
So we'll try to get something going.
Okay. Thank you,
Okay.
Tom. Anything else for future agenda items? All right, yeah, so we've got a pretty full list here of things to tackle. Alan?
I have to say that the cold storage facility concept is still gestating, and there's not a lot happening with that. Unfortunately, I've been preoccupied, and I know Ron has been trying to nudge me along, but he hasn't been very successful. So that's all.
So that one's still out there?
Yeah, it's floating.
Very good. Yes, Ron?
For the Harbor Department, is it the Harbor Department's intent in the next staff report that the Harbor Advisory Board sees to give us a current report on the marine facilities study?
You have an ad hoc committee for that? No?
It's in the hands of the consultant. The ad hoc committee is waiting for the consultant to, I don't mean its final report, the consultant agreed to give the Harbor Advisory Department periodic reports.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, when we met with Eric and the Morro Bay Fishermen's Organization and with Henry Ponarelli, and I believe he's committed to providing some kind of an update. So.
Good. I'd like to see it in the staff. Yeah, and that'll come back either in the staff report or probably under presentations. Good. Anything else for future agenda items? Okay, nothing else. We'll look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Gene and seconded by Bill. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for a good meeting.